Hey guys, welcome back. Today we want to look into another couple of spots, but first of all I want to recommend a study routine which I personally use to go through hands quickly, to spot the hands quickly, which you wanna study, for example, just like pre-flop all-ins and PKOs, and you can obviously go through the whole hand history and search for those spots, or like just in general go through the hand history, look at your play, and then research the pre-flop all-ins. But for example, if you're only interested in pre-flop all-ins, then I highly recommend to build a filter. I show you now the filter in PokerTracker 4. If you use a different software, then you have to build the filter for yourself, but this is like super efficient. So you just filter for all the possible pre-flop all-ins. This hand had to go to showdown. Then I do exclude with this the final table situations which might have occurred, and I take the bounty flag. And in the last, I just cap the buy-in to a certain buy-in amount, so I can always use the same setup. So for example, this cap here is for either a $300 PKO or a $500 PKO. Since I don't include GG hands here, it's only the Bounty Builder 530 hands for PokerStars now in this filter. And you see here only the marked hands. If I go from like the 1.7 preflop all-ins, yeah, I have a couple. And yeah, then I have already marked some for the video, and we want to go through those spots now. All right, then you can just open your HRC. So this will be here a solution. We'll look at this quickly. You use your HRC. You can just use your standard setup for Bounty Builder 530, for example, with the total chips of 1,000 players, first place prizes, all right, and then you just copy paste all of the pre-flop all-ins which you're interested in this certain tournament, and then you can just research through. So this is obviously only useful if you have like a couple of sessions and like the same buy-in margin. But yeah, for example, if you play like those 33 PKO on-demand tournaments, or very often a Bounty Builder 44, like really saves you time to go through the pre-flop spots. All right, then now let's hop into the spots. All right, this is the first spot. We're sitting here with our 10-8 suited in the small blind. It's folded to rec on the cutoff. It does open raise, button folds. We elect to flat, and second rec here in the big blind jams his one starting stack and 1.8 start bounties approximately. Button fold, cutoff folds, and question is, how should our calling range look like here? Think quickly about it, and then we are going into the solve. All right, let's go. So this is the open raising range, which I did estimate for the cutoff. It's kind of on the loose side, but I think it's very accurate, especially given that this guy is also a little bit more on the active side. This is my chosen flatting range here. Of course, you can extend this to more suited king X, but I tend to 3-bet those hands to have like clear get-go 3-bets. Also, here you can see it's a higher frequently calls. I tend to call those combinations more often. You can definitely 3-bet them more frequently if you like to. And yeah, then just a little bit of mixing in the off-suited part, but overall this should be like a more natural calling range here in the small blind. And we did estimate overall his rejamming range to this, like very stable stuff. He can definitely just like passively defend a couple of those hands, but given that he has such a high bounty on his head compared to his stacks, so he had like approximately $430 in total bounty, which gives him a very high bounty power. So taking the good king X and rejamming those is definitely a very profitable play, since the players behind should definitely call most of their king X, right? So taking the good king X in the rejam is like super printing, which you can also see here. Rejam like king 10 suit prints here $35, a king queen offsuit prints close to $60. So that's definitely a good jam, and I expect this player also to yeah, be more on the optimal side, I would say. Still, looking at our calling range, it's probably not as surprising that we are calling everything. Just be aware that, like, again, those combinations here are printing way more than your suited kings, so you should definitely start folding here in the bottom suited flats if you have those. And here in the off-suited part as well, Queen Jack offsuit is also like break-evenish. I don't mind break-evenish calls in a PKO, but yeah, if you have like a decent edge on the table and not like additional benefit of getting a bigger stack on this table, for example, when you then cover like 8 out of 9 players or 7 out of 8 players, then I would tend to just leave out those break-evenish combinations. So 10-8 suited here, clear in-get, even against a probably like tightish range or tighter range, guy can definitely jam a little bit more. You can see this here in the green, additional green combinations. Can jam 4s, ace 8, can jam queen 10, jack 10. I think probably it's just not taken because of the estimation that the players behind will very often just VPip their king X, so they're taking out those combinations. And yeah, ace 4 suited is just right on the edge. So see how the hand went out, did call and made a straight. Yeah, lucky, got it. Next hand. All right, this is a hand where I think most of the population is making huge mistakes. We have here an early position or middle position open raise. We have a rejam behind this middle position open raise. Players are folding, and the question is, which is the bottom combination which we can rejam here? Picture it, and then we look into the solve. All right, here comes the simulation result. In the first simulation, I did take math mode just for quick and dirty. And the second one, I took Monte Carlo simulation, which should be way more accurate. And here you can see how we did estimate the open raising range of the middle position player, quite deep, quite loose. I think this is very accurate as a middle position opening range, which you can expect. And here in this simulation, I did expect that this player goes like for the widest possible. So since this player is more active, more aggressive on the pre-flop get inside, probably also has a little bit more of yeah, I don't care approach on this kind of spot and just goes for it, especially if he sees a guy probably opening a little bit too wide. This is like the optimal range for like the widest possible solution you can get for our 4-bet jam in the small blind, right? So I don't think it's getting ever wider than this. And in this case, we are jamming 8s plus ace jack suited, ace queen offsuit. So you can see that this solution is already pretty tight. And VPipping a hand like ace-10 suited or king-queen suited here is in this simulation like close to break even, also 7s. But remember, this is estimating like a very wide 3-bet jamming range here. Coming now to the Monte Carlo sim, where I estimated the guy like a little bit tighter opening and just fixed his rejamming range to what I find is like reasonable for population to rejam. Probably population is even a little bit tighter with like taking out ace jack offsuit and taking out ace 10 suited. Then you can see our solution in the Monte Carlo sim also taking in card bunching effects and the big blind. We did not have the big blind here in the math mode since it's capped to 3 players. So obviously I did take the Monte Carlo simulation to take into account the 3% rejam of the fabulous guy. Our in-getting range only becomes 9s plus and ace queen suited. Even ace queen offsuit is a fold. And this I would say is most of the times the stable range which you want to get in against a middle position or early position open raise and a middle position rejam. Those rejamming ranges are super strong and those ranges are not as wide so that you can leverage on the dead money as much. So yeah, 9s plus, ace queen suited plus is the range which you want to get in. And the next natural combos, if you think the rejammer is rejamming to white, probably tilting, probably wants to go for the, I go for the re-entry case. You never know, probably you had some kind of a note on him. Then you know, okay, my next natural combos to add are ace jack suited in eights and ace queen offsuit. But you won't go like wider than this. So like even thinking about like jamming like king queen suited here or a hand like sixes is just like burning an insane amount of money. And just for like verification again, I mean the guy has tens here. He is already on the loser side. The point is that people are always jamming like their good range, right? So they're very top 5% range, and afterwards they're yeah, then thinking, okay, probably I should flat those hands, probably I should rejam, but it's like most of the times never 100%. So the variance in seeing like the good outcome for you, seeing like a weak hand, is very big. Meanwhile, the variance on seeing the top range is 0, right? So we'll way more often look into the good combinations and way less often look into the bad combinations. And so taking those kind of spots a little bit more with caution and tighter, stronger ranges is, I think, the way to go and play those kind of situations. By the way, this guy here had a little bit under his starting stack, yeah, and a start bounty. So his bounty influence is like medium, right? So it's like approximately 6% less equity which you need against his rejam here. On to the next spot. This one is also a very common spot. And here it's like very interesting how you construct the open raising range of a short stack and how you want to respond in your 3-bets in the small blind. And we did estimate his opening range rather strong. Let me go to, here we go. So this is the open raising range which we did estimate. Just a lot of blockers and then his value range. And I think like 9s, 8s, 7s are most of the times jammed, and you can argue that, yeah, okay, on like more passive tables where 3-betting is not happening so much, you definitely want to jam like your hands which are here in the bottom, which suffer an equity realization if they're out of position. So probably those kind of hands are open jam too. But since this is a higher stakes tournament, I think also this guy is a good player. I think this is like a very natural and reasonable open raising range here. And against this open raising range, it's very dependent on how you perceive the player playing. Since let's look into the equilibrium solution for his 4-bet jamming range if we 3-bet, okay? And his 4-bet jamming range is everything he did open raise. If players start to fold a hand like King Jack offsuit, King Queen offsuit, King Jack suited, King 10 suited, and not either call or 4-bet jam those kind of hands, then the 3-bet is definitely like printing the world. Okay, so the players have to play like close to optimal to make the 3-bet of a hand like King 7 suited worse compared to calling. And let's look into the solution. So against his 11.3% open raising range, King 7 suited is like right on the edge of a profitable 3-bet. Then obviously call, since we call everything which we will 3-bet here since the price is so good. So it's just like right on the edge. And I would say most of the players are not 4-bet jamming a hand like King Jack offsuit or King 10 suited, and probably even overfold in the suited ace X, although those are like still printing very well. But probably like from an in-game perspective, or if you haven't run the sim yet, those are like your get-go raise folds in your head, and then you're just like folding those combinations. I think most of the population is playing like this. Open raising to white with a short stack and then folding to aggression. Probably not even open raising too wide, since those are like profitable open raises, but they're only profitable if you are willing to get it in. And if you're not willing to get it in, those open raises are burning a lot of your stack. So if you have this kind of player, which is probably open raising too much, this is most of the type of players, and then not broking wide enough, which is also most of the type of players, then you can definitely get away with a lot of good free betting hands, like for example King 7 or King 6 suited here. The second information which you need is if the guy here in the big blind is 3-betting wide. Since you can argue that you want to call a hand like King 7 suited here in the small blind, but you open up the probability for him or a possibility for him to just go and 3-bet against the short stack and leverage on all of your combos which you can never broke. If the guy then brokes, you're sitting in the sandwich, and yeah, what you're doing with a hand like King 7 suited, if you did call, then he 3-bets, he jams, right? So you open this window for him to go like really, really wide in a 3-bet, since you will put an additional 600 chips here on top, and that's just like so much dead money that you can just go ahead and 3-bet a lot, a lot, a lot. If you have this kind of player which 3-bets a lot, go ahead and 3-bet yourself. If you have a very passive player here in the big blind, for the close combination, if you think this guy is playing close to optimal in his in-getting range, you can just go ahead and flat. So two very important informations. First of all, the perception of the open raiser, how he will broke his open raising range, and the second information is this big blind 3-betting wide or wide enough in this scenario, which makes your flat worse. I did elect here to 3-bet. Big blind is folding. He's getting it in. We're calling, and he has queens. A little bit similar to the situation which we had before, where you will, like again, always look into the very good combos, since the variance is 0. They're always broking them, and I probably will not know if he would have had broke the hand like King Jack offsuit or Ace 5 suited. I probably see like in the next couple of thousand hands, probably not. But yeah, for now I just go with like the equilibrium solution, and I think the guy is good enough and understands that he cannot like raise fold anything in this kind of situation. And then the King 7 3-bet is definitely like the way to go here in this kind of scenario. Probably not only interesting in King 7. See, like King 7 is like not printing the world, but look at 5-4 suited, right? 5-4 suited is printing 12 times as much as King 7 suited in a 3-bet. So this one is close. 5-4 suited is just a snap fist pump 3-bet get it in combo. Or snap fist pump 3-bet get it in combo like 9-7 suited, 8-6 suited kind of hand, right? So if you are in this kind of situation where the bounty influence on a certain player is pretty high, so here you had a little bit under 1/3 of a starting stack, and then you can just like go completely ham in the small blind, in the big blind on a 3-betting side. All right, that's it for today, guys. Wish you good luck at the table. See you there, and bye bye.